guys, what up? It's currently 6:51 p.m. I'm starting my next vlog, and I will see you soon. Bye.
Let's take a closer look and find out. Upon signing with WCW in '94, the Hulkster showed how good of a super pal he was by getting all his friends to come over to the new playground as well. Randy Savage, Brutus Beefcake, the Nasty Boys, and Jimmy Hart were just some of the many folks to cross into enemy territory for fewer dates and more money well after their biggest drawing years. Hogan's very first contest in the company was a dream match for the world title against Ric Flair, which the Hulkster won handily. After blowing their wad beginning on such a high note, where else could Hogan possibly go? For that answer, we turn to Kevin Sullivan, a man who returned to WCW not too long before Hogan's historic signing. Upon his return, he began teaming up with the Equalizer, now renamed Dave Sullivan, Kevin's kayfabe brother.
My brother Dave is a special individual. Yeah. Evad, Kevin. Evad. He's dyslexic.
So yes, Kevin Sullivan now has a dyslexic brother named Dave, who refers to himself as Evad because
Guys, what's up? It is currently 8:41 p.m. I'm exhausted. I have no idea why. I'm just so tired. Like, I can't function, so I'm probably gonna head to bed soon. I got a lot of stuff to do tomorrow too. So, yay.
This is just one insane piece of work. I felt older, like how much did it really impact, everything else going on with the company? I don't think it was. I think it was more has to do with the writing than anything else. And I think that, again, who's more to blame for what happened between Russo and Bischoff Hogan? Like, I don't really know for sure. Again, it's he said, where's the truth lie? Who really knows? But I mean, as far as like this specific show, I think they're equally to blame for what happened here, because Russo's his ideas and Bischoff ultimately had the power to say, let's pull this back a bit. But after a while, he even said so in his podcast, how he just kind of gave up after a while. Said, fine, we'll do it your way and see what happens. He kind of checked out at this point. People still talk about it, sure. But again, there's a lot of bad and dumb stuff throughout wrestling history that people still talk about. And there's a reason it's bad and dumb, basically. This was probably, I think what kept this show, from going to full F for me was just how insane it was, just all across the board. How it's like there's so many little things and big things you can look at.
I'm actually really sleepy, but I have to get me out here in a minute for ready for bed. And yeah, I didn't get my TV working, but my dad did, so love him for that. Thank you, Daddy. Shout out to you. Anyway, I'm going to chill for a bit, keep my meal, and then go to bed. And I will see you guys in the morning. Good night.
One wise ass tweeted, well, who'd won an autograph from a Fanboy Expo this summer in July? And, of course, the gathering in Charlotte at our old stomping grounds, the Hilton University place out there. That's in August. More details at jimcornette.com, where I've got a brief update. Folks have been taking action on these updates. I'm trying to keep them involved.
I'm sure he could forge some kind of McFly-level father and son bond with Curtis Axel and form a prolific tag team. Number 8, the Brainbusters. Another tag team with the potential to penetrate the space-time continuum and succeed in an era that is not their own is the team of Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson, the Brainbusters. Once 2/5 of the 4 horsemen, yes, we know the math doesn't add up, Blanchard and Anderson were only in the WWF for about a hiccup during the 80s, but their technical prowess and ability to tell an effective story were lauded in the contemporary wrestling scene. It truly is the stuff of dreams. Heenan as a manager, as a TV host, or even as a commentator would be fantastic. As a heel sympathizer you always wanted to shake your fist at, or even as the leader of his own stable, Heenan would undoubtedly add quality to every part of the show he came into contact with, and his quick tongue and faster brain would undoubtedly be well suited to the live presentation of so many wrestling events nowadays. Even in an industry that isn't necessarily crying out for managers, Heenan would be an undeniably positive influence on the product of any wrestling organization, the WWE included. The scientific formula says so. Number 6,
start to lose the enamel, then that's when we start to see the yellow color. I do recommend Pro-Enamel Strong and Bright. It's able to help strengthen the enamel. Removing those surface stains, it gives the patient the bright white teeth that they're looking for.
were years ahead of their time, then the British, that their matches remain vital lessons on how to perform tag matches to this very day. Their mix of traditional British techniques and an ahead of their time speedy offense was about as modern of a style as you could possibly imagine for the decade, and despite their clear British allegiances, they remained super over babyfaces in the US. Kidd in particular brought a style of wrestling to the 80s WWF that was faster and more based on athleticism than the majority of his peers, a facet of the team's overall identity that could be transposed into the modern landscape without any issues. With that in mind, can you imagine how great these guys would be if they were pushed to their physical limits night after night, week after week by talent with similar styles like the teams of today? They would have arguably lasted longer in the contemporary climate too, where drugs aren't as much of an issue and there are less pressures on the talent to bulk up in the same way. Not only would the British Bulldogs be a great tag team in the modern day, but they would arguably be better off in this decade too, a cruel irony to this previously playful game. Number 5, Randy Savage. The match there are a few counterpoints to that. The first and most major point is that Savage was a phenomenal in-ring talent. In fact, in his prime, he may have been the very best of all time. He was the sort of wrestler that could entertain a crowd while putting on a technical masterpiece, and his work has inspired dozens of high-profile names in the decades since. He was so good that almost every active WWE wrestler considers his WrestleMania match with Ricky Steamboat to still be the very best WrestleMania match of all time, even all these years later. The second point is that Jay Lethal has gotten the gimmick over several times in the past decade or so, and why settle for impression when you can get the real thing? Joking aside, Savage would be an unmissable part of any WWE show in the current age, and without a doubt the sort of talent who could step up outside of Vince's company and do fantastic business. Savage versus Omega, Savage versus Daniel Bryan are matches that we can only dream about seeing, but are proof as to how far ahead of his time he was in the ring and how well suited he'd be to the contemporary wrestling scene. Number 4, City's all versions of himself sprayed onto his tights was an act of genius that separated him from the other attractive, muscular heels of the day, and his ability to come across as the most entitled heat and those excellent tights. Put them in a ring in 2018 and you will have a star guaranteed. Number 3, Jake Roberts. When Jake Roberts spoke, people listened. And it wasn't just because he was a crazed psychopath wearing a python around his neck. The man known somewhat affectionately as the Snake would probably have Peter to answer for. At one time so far removed from your archetypal county mayor as you could possibly imagine, the real-life Glenn Jacobs' debut as the character Kane was that of a physically imposing man suffering physically from horrifying burns caused by his unflinching brother and suffering mentally from the anguish of not only being left to die by the only person he ever trusted, but also from the fact that he had said horrifying burns all over his body. What I'm trying to say is he had lots of burns. Don't start fires. Jacobs, of course, debuted for the WWE much earlier than the moment Kane ripped the door off the Hell in a Cell from its hinges during the match's inaugural bout between Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker, but it's his character of Kane that left the most indelible mark and the character that surely deserves a top 5 spot on this list. Over the 20-plus years since his debut, we've seen sadistic Paul Bearer control Kane, we've seen Brothers of Destruction Kane, we've seen comedy Big Man Kane, maskless Kane, new mask Kane, murderous Kane, creepy Kane, and even corporate Kane, putting Glenn Jacobs on Chris Adel.
I won!
Edgy was in the driver's seat as far as the feud went. After all, who wants to see the guy who spits and assaults women come out on top of this type of story?
Road with ProPilot Assist. Innovative technology that helps you stay in your lane and maintain following distance, so you can conquer.
Crossover event between NXT and WWE may seem quite low. We've had to think about what we'd like to see and formulated this list. The only rule: each wrestler can only be used once. I'm Adam Pacitti from
And then I have a bunch I can probably put over there, but I haven't decided what to do with those yet. So.
Number 10, Bobby Wrestling versus Brock MMA.
Hey guys, what's up? I'm still in my PJs. I'm gonna get dressed, and I will see you in a few. Bye. Hi, Link. So I'm with this weirdo, and we're gonna say goodbye because I'm gonna end my vlog. Bye.